Today's guest of today's episode of Success Story program is a multi-successful personality. He succeeded in being a certified diver and underwater photographer, and to be a distinguished tourist guide. And also in the field of engineering, he designed an innovative tricycle that can enter very, very narrow streets as an ambulance. Our guest is the engineer, the creative artist Amr Osman. Amr Osman was born in the Cairo Governorate in the year 1965. He spent his childhood years in Port Fouad, where his father was the chief guide of the Suez Canal Authority. He joined the Egyptian Higher Institute of Civil Aviation and worked as an aviation mechanics engineer, specializing in designing aircraft structures and working in power plants. Because of his strong love for the field of tourism, he also joined the Faculty of Tourism and Hotels, specializing in tourist guiding and obtaining a bachelor's degree in Egyptology. Engineer Amr Osman tried to benefit from his main specialty, which is engineering, and his greatest interest was how engineering affects the development of Egyptian society in ancient Egypt. He also obtained a diploma in tourism guidance and also obtained a work permit as a tourist guide. In the year 1992, he obtained the international license as an organizer of tourist and guiding tours tour operator. Engineer Amr Osman continued to work in the field of tourism for 25 years, where he spent time between being a military guide and being a manager in charge of tours as a tour operator. From his point of view, the tour guide is not only about the knowledge of a language, but it requires many different skills, such as the ability of good organization, as well as how to manage crises, also how to adapt things in different circumstances. As since the tourist arrives in the land of Egypt, and through all the small and large details related to his tourist programs, all things must be calculated very accurately so that the tourist enjoys his full time and also that any problems are avoided. It may also his trip be fun and make him feel the fun of his trip. And of course, this requires discipline, good behavior, speed and flexibility on the part of the tour guide to achieve the best offers and also manage any crisis that may occur. Amr Osman says that one of the most difficult situations or difficulties that can meet the tour guide is how to protect the tourist group responsible for it from any dangers it may face or any wrong situations. Amr Osman was also a member of the Tourist Guide Syndicate in Egypt and also the General Federation of Tourist Guides, and continued in his position for 6 years, during which he was elected. During this period, and as he was responsible for financial affairs, he was able to solve many of the existing problems, and also the introduction of modern technology to solve many of the existing problems, which made his presence in this place of great benefit. In addition to the engineer and tourist guide, Amr Osman gave many lectures in different conferences, and it was the engineering specialization that enabled him to deal with engineering designs and some physical matters in which the ancient Egyptian excelled. So he always linked his first field of study in engineering and similar sciences with the ancient Egyptians. Since the engineer Amr Osman is a multi-talented person, he has entered into more than one field such as engineering and tourism guidance. He also loved diving in the depths of the sea very much and practiced it until he was able in 1993 to obtain a PADI license for diving and underwater photography. Diving was one of the most popular hobbies that Amr Osman enjoyed, as well as underwater photography, where he filmed hundreds of wonderful and dazzling pictures. And his point of view was that he had the ability to reach the depths of the sea, but ordinary people were difficult to watch. These wonderful picturesque scenes he can transmit with his camera, this beauty and splendor, so that people can see it through the exhibitions he held. His love and passion for diving began when he was young during the process of clearing the Suez Canal, where he was fascinated by the Suez Canal diving team and the miracles that they achieved in the cleansing process. To learn to dive, he was sure of rejection, but he was asked to go to his uncle to teach him to dive. Photographer Amr Osman says that the underwater photography was a dream for him when he started diving, because under the water there is an integrated and harmonious world and a dazzling nature in everything in terms of colors and movement. And there are many skills needed by anyone who wants to photograph underwater, starting from professional diving. overcoming the limitations of movement and the laws of physics and the overloading of diving and photography devices, and most important of all, adherence to the rules of diving, the most important of which is not to touch anything underwater. He says that the best images that can be met are in the depths of the Red Sea because the water temperature is moderate and the marine life is in good condition, unlike many marine coasts worldwide. Regarding the diving camera, he says that it needs flashes that are stronger than normal cameras and are very sensitive and against pressure. And he says that one dive allows capturing about 70 frames. Diving to the depths of the sea has its severe dangers. One of the most difficult situations that the diver Amos Mann was exposed to is the presence of a large shark in front of the boat, which he and his colleagues must return from the diving trip, and they had no choice but to keep total quiet and not move completely for 2 full hours. And they waited until the shark moved to another place so that they could move and board the boat again. In a new stage in his life, or in the life of the engineer, diver, and underwater photographer Amos Mann, he studied the conditions in Egypt through his many travels in many places in Egypt as a tourist guide who goes to many different places. And he thought that there are existing problems, especially in places that are located in very narrow streets or in the Egyptian countryside. So he thought of the Tricycle Project. Here, he monitored the numbers and statistics of various parties such as the International Labour Organization and other organizations in other bodies too. To achieve this goal, he used a group of young engineers at Helwan University who had won an important competition to design a Formula racing car and joined them to the company that was so that he could benefit from their experience in this field. and with his partner who started the project, they all tried to design and manufacture this vehicle. An attempt, and each one was there to solve an existing problem. For example, how much weight would the tricycle be carrying? The engineer Amr Osman and his team tried to use all the Egyptian materials, except for the few materials that they got from abroad. They especially traveled abroad to get them. In the period from the year 2007 to 2009, he analyzed and collected information studies of the manufacture of the first ambulance and a fire truck for slums, poor and remote areas, and put all the steps and details of how to manufacture this tricycle, which will solve the problem of the difficulty of access for firefighters and ambulances within very, very narrow streets. And he actually made the prototype. This is the idea he started for the engineering design of this device. In the period from 2009 to the year 2016, engineer Amr Osman established the first Egyptian company specialized in designing equipment and vehicles of this type, and it was formed through young engineers specialized in this field and designed a tricycle with all international Egyptian specifications. Indeed, after years of hard and diligent work, after making all the modifications, the tricycle was completed in its final form and became a tangible reality so that it could solve many of the existing problems which were due to the large size of the ambulance and the large size of the fire brigade, which resulted in the inability to enter the very narrow streets in Egypt and thus not being able to extinguish the fire or reach the patient in a timely manner and help him. That project served and serves many places, not only in Egypt, but in all the African countries, or continent rather. The engineer, the tour guide, diver, and photographer lived a full life of work and activities in different fields, and his many projects and dreams that he presented and achieved and wants to achieve, and which we are proud of that he presented to Egypt, and we're proud of what he will present to Egypt.